The Jarvans had always seen themselves as the masters of the universe, their empire stretching across the stars, their psychic abilities unmatched, their fleets filled with ships that could obliterate entire worlds with a thought. They had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, and each time they had proven themselves to be the pinnacle of power. No one had ever stood a chance against them. Their technology and abilities were as advanced as they were cold and calculating. They viewed all other species as insignificant toys to be played with at their leisure. But when they came upon Earth, they underestimated the humans. They had heard the stories of these fragile creatures from a distant planet, a small blue dot in the vastness of space. They had observed their feeble attempts at communication with the stars, their primitive machines, unable to even leave their solar system. They laughed at the humans, as they had laughed at so many before them in their arrogance. They believed the humans would be easily conquered and crushed beneath their heel, but they had no idea what awaited them on Earth. The humans had been watching the stars for centuries, but not for the reasons the Jarvans thought. They had been searching for something lost to time, a secret buried deep within their history, a language older than the first galaxies, a forgotten power that had been dormant within the human race for millennia, a power that no alien species had ever encountered. But now the Jarvans were about to face it head-on. Earth's leaders had gathered in secret to discuss their final plan. They knew they were facing certain doom. There was no army that could stand against the might of the Jarvans, no technology that could match their ships. But there was something the humans had that the Jarvans could not predict. The ancient language of their ancestors, which had not been spoken in eons, had been rediscovered by a small group of scholars. The script had been hidden for centuries, buried deep beneath the earth, waiting for the right moment to resurface. They were no longer just trying to survive. They were preparing to fight back. They had unlocked something that the Jarvans had no understanding of, no way to comprehend. As the Jarvans began their descent from the sky, their ships hovered ominously above Earth's cities, their psychic scans revealing nothing of the humans' secret weapon. They began their assault, expecting the humans to crumble before their superior force. But what they didn't realize was that the humans had already begun their counterattack. It was not with guns or missiles, but with words, ancient words that had not been spoken since the dawn of civilization. These words were the key to unlocking an unimaginable power hidden deep within humanity. And as the humans stood beneath the darkened skies, the first of those ancient words escaped from their lips like a whisper through the wind. The very atmosphere trembled as the first syllable was spoken. The Jarvans paused for a brief moment, their scanners flickering in confusion. This was not what they had anticipated. The first word hung in the air like a ripple across a still pond. The Jarvans, momentarily confused, tried to dismiss the sensation they felt. It was nothing more than a glitch in their scanners, a brief anomaly that would pass. They couldn't have known the ancient words were far more than a mere whisper or a disturbance. They had no way of understanding the depths of their power or how it had remained dormant within the human race. For so long it had taken centuries for the ancient script to resurface, buried deep beneath the earth, hidden by those who had known the secrets of the past, but had chosen to keep it a secret from the rest of humanity for fear of what it might unleash, a secret so dangerous it could change the course of the universe itself. The humans who had discovered it were not mere scholars or archaeologists. They were visionaries, people who had spent their lives looking for the truth buried beneath the surface. The script had been a puzzle for years. Only recently had they begun to decipher its meaning. Each word felt like a key unlocking a door that had been sealed shut for millennia. Their understanding of the language was limited, but they knew enough to know it was no ordinary language. It was something more. It was a connection to an ancient power, one that had been left behind by those who had come before them, an energy that had been dormant for eons, waiting for the right time to awaken. And as they began to unlock the secrets of the language, they could feel it coursing through them like a tidal wave of energy, growing stronger with each word uttered. They could feel the earth itself responding to the words beneath their feet, the ground vibrating with a pulse of ancient energy, as if the planet itself had been waiting for the humans to awaken this power. They spoke the next word louder this time, and the air around them seemed to crackle with static. The Jarvans on their ships above Earth tried to maintain their focus, their superior technology, unable to comprehend what was happening below. But as the humans continued to speak the language, the Jarvans began to feel something they had never felt before: fear. The psychic shields they relied on to protect them from external influences began to flicker and then shatter like glass. Their telepathic connections to one another began to fray. Their minds could no longer communicate clearly. The Jarvans had always prided themselves on their ability to control every situation, their psychic powers allowing them to dominate their enemies without a fight. But now they were losing that control. They couldn't understand why the humans' words were affecting them in this way. They couldn't comprehend the power that was being unleashed. The humans had spoken only 2 words so far, but already the Jarvans could feel their grip on the situation slipping. The first ships that had arrived above Earth began to lose their stability, hovering uneasily in the air as the energy around them intensified. And the Jarvans couldn't stop it. They couldn't stop what the humans had awakened in themselves. The Jarvans had never known fear like this. They had been so certain of their superiority that the idea of a small, insignificant race like humanity posing a threat had never crossed their minds. But now the very ground beneath them seemed to be alive, the atmosphere thickening with an energy they couldn't begin to understand. As the humans continued to speak the ancient words, their minds struggling to grasp the impossible, they watched in disbelief as the human resistance force, gathered in secret deep beneath Earth's surface, spoke louder and more confidently with each passing moment. The energy flowing from their voices was undeniable. It rippled through the air like a shockwave, powerful enough to make the very fabric of reality tremble. The Jarvan ships above Earth shook as if caught in an invisible storm. Their pilots tried desperately to stabilize their craft, but nothing worked. The Jarvans could not control what was happening to them. They had always believed that their psychic powers were the pinnacle of control, yet now they were losing control of everything they had ever relied on. The humans were changing the rules of the game. They had no idea how, but the power of the ancient words was doing something to their very essence, something they could not explain. It was more than just a disturbance. It was a force in its own right, an energy that coursed through the humans like a river that had been dammed for millennia and was now flowing freely with devastating results. The human leaders, who had once trembled before the might of the Jarvans, now stood tall and unshaken. They spoke the next word in unison, and the world around them seemed to shift. The skies above Earth rippled like water disturbed by a stone. The energy from the words seemed to connect them to the very heart of the planet itself. The earth beneath them hummed as though it recognized the ancient language and responded to it as if it had been waiting for its call. The Jarvan's communication systems began to flicker, the screens on their ships glitching as the psychic interference grew stronger. Each Jarvan began to feel a sudden weight in their minds, as if their thoughts were being pulled in every direction. At once their telepathic bond with one another fractured, leaving them vulnerable to the unknown force the humans were unleashing above them. The Jarvans tried to form a counterattack, but the air itself seemed to resist them. It was as if the very elements were turning against them, no longer able to control their surroundings. The Jarvan's most elite telepathic agents attempted to enter the minds of the humans to stop the flow of the language, but even they faltered. The power of the ancient words was beyond their comprehension, beyond anything they had ever encountered, and with each new word spoken by the humans, the Jarvan's power continued to crumble. The human resistance fighters, once terrified and outmatched, now stood like titans, their voices uniting into a single unstoppable force, and as the words of the ancient language flowed from their lips like a song long forgotten, they felt something stir inside them, a connection to something older than themselves, something more primal than any technology or psychic ability. And in that moment they knew they were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for something far greater, a power that would change the very future of the universe. The Jarvan ships hovered above Earth, their once unfathomable power now undermined by an unseen force. The psychic shields that had made them gods of the galaxy were crumbling into nothingness. They could no longer rely on their technology to assert dominance. The humans, emboldened by the power of the ancient words, stood firm, their voices echoing through the atmosphere, as though the very air had become a living thing. Every syllable they uttered was an attack against the Jarvan's arrogance, every word a blow that shattered their confidence. The human leaders, standing together in their underground sanctum, felt an undeniable shift in the energy surrounding them. It was as if the ancient words had unlocked a part of their minds that had lain dormant for centuries. The language wasn't just a means of communication. It was a conduit to something deeper, something far beyond the comprehension of any species. The humans could now sense the pulse of the universe itself. Their minds were no longer bound by the limitations of mere thought. They could feel the heartbeat of the planet, the vibrations of distant stars, the flow of time and space itself. It was as if the entire cosmos had opened itself to them, and the Jarvans were left standing on the outside. Looking in, they could no longer understand what was happening, or how it was happening. They could only feel their grip on the situation slipping as the humans grew stronger with each passing moment. The Jarvans, desperate to regain control, unleashed their full psychic arsenal, but their efforts fell flat. It was as though their powers were no longer effective against the humans' newfound strength. The telepathic agents, who had once crushed entire civilizations with a mere thought, now found themselves paralyzed, unable to breach the humans' minds. The words they spoke had become a barrier, a shield against their psychic onslaught. The Jarvans sent their ships to attack the human stronghold, hoping to obliterate the source of this inexplicable power. But the very air around the humans warped and bent, as though they were shielded by an invisible force. The ship's weapons malfunctioned, their missiles diverted into space, their energy blasts deflected with ease. The Jarvans began to panic. They had never encountered a force like this before. Every weapon they had was rendered useless, and still, the humans continued to speak the ancient words louder and more confidently than ever before. With each word, the power of the language seemed to grow stronger. The human leaders stood taller, their bodies glowing faintly as though charged by an energy far beyond their understanding. They could feel the power coursing through their veins. And it was no longer just words that they controlled, it was reality itself. Their connection to the ancient language had become a bridge to an uncharted dimension of power, and as they uttered the next syllable, the entire ground beneath the Jarvans' fleet began to tremble, cracks spreading across the surface of Earth, as if the planet itself was waking up from a long slumber. The Jarvan ships struggled to remain steady in the face of the shifting Earth, but their efforts were futile. The very fabric of space seemed to bend to the humans' will, and with it, the Jarvans began to understand the true nature of the power they had awakened. It was not merely a defense mechanism. It was a force of creation and destruction, a force that could reshape reality itself. And the Jarvans were about to learn that the humans were its masters. The Jarvans had never known defeat. They had never been pushed to the edge of their power as they were now, but the humans, once helpless and insignificant in their eyes, had become an unstoppable force. The Jarvans watched in stunned disbelief as their most sophisticated weapons, their psychic prowess, and their centuries of experience crumbled before a mere handful of humans who spoke a language that had been lost to time. With each word the humans spoke, the Jarvans' control over the battlefield slipped further and further away. The Jarvans' most powerful telepathic agents, those who had once commanded entire armies with their minds, now found themselves helpless. Their psychic abilities were overwhelmed by the power of the ancient words. Their telepathic communication systems were nothing more than static and interference. Their ships shook violently as the space around them warped. The humans had unlocked something that they could never have imagined, a force that could defy the laws of physics itself. They had never understood the depth of humanity's potential, but now they were witnessing it firsthand. As the humans grew stronger, the Jarvans grew desperate. Their ships, unable to fight the power of the ancient language, began to turn on one another, weapons malfunctioning, shields collapsing, ships falling from the sky. As the humans continued to speak the words louder with increasing intensity, the Jarvans attempted to regroup, sending their elite telepaths into the fray. But even they could not break through the human defenses. The very air seemed to reject their presence. It was as if the universe itself was turning against them. The humans' voices rang out across the battlefield, an anthem of resistance that resounded in the minds of every Jarvan. The very sound of the words was enough to strike fear into them, as if the ancient language carried with it the weight of 1,000 generations of knowledge and power. The Jarvans' psychic powers had been their greatest asset. their means of domination over all who dared to stand against them. But now they were a liability, their connection to each other faltering, as their minds grew weaker with every spoken syllable. The Jarvans had never known a force like this. They could not fight it, they could not control it, and they could not understand it. Their once pristine fleet was now a chaotic mess of failing technology and panicking soldier ships spinning out of control as the humans continued to speak those fateful words louder and louder, each word resonating in the core of the universe itself. The humans were no longer just fighting for their survival. They were reshaping the very nature of reality around them. The Jarvans tried to send reinforcements from other parts of their empire, but it was too late. The humans had already unlocked something far beyond their understanding, something that was not just a weapon, but a force of creation itself. The humans were bending the fabric of the cosmos to their will. Their minds were no longer bound by the laws of physics or time, and as the Jarvans realized the full scope of the humans' power, they began to panic, trying to retreat, trying to flee the battlefield. But it was futile. No one could escape what the humans had unleashed. The Jarvans' retreat was a chaotic mess of broken ships and panicked minds. Their once mighty fleet, which had descended upon Earth with the confidence of invincible conquerors, was now reduced to a crippled mess as their technology malfunctioned and their psychic shields disintegrated. The humans, who had once been seen as nothing more than a fleeting, fragile species, had become a force beyond comprehension. As the ancient words flowed freely from their lips, reality itself seemed to bend and crack under their influence. The Jarvans' telepathic network, once flawless, was now riddled with static and confusion. Their minds unable to connect or coordinate their efforts, the humans spoke with one voice, their words ringing out like a final judgment, and with every syllable, the universe itself seemed to shift. The ground below trembled as the very fabric of space warped, bending and twisting in response to the power the humans had awakened. The Jarvans' psychic agents, the most powerful beings in their ranks, tried in vain to exert control, but they were no match for the overwhelming surge of energy emanating from the humans. Each word they spoke was like a wave crashing against the Jarvans' fragile minds. Their once immense psychic abilities now felt as weak as children's whispers in the face of a roaring storm. The humans were not only altering the battlefield, they were rewriting the rules of existence itself. It wasn't just a matter of survival anymore. The humans had tapped into something far greater than they had ever imagined, a force that transcended time and space, a force that had been dormant within their DNA, waiting for the moment it would be needed most. The Jarvans, whose empire spanned countless worlds, could not comprehend the sheer magnitude of what was happening. The language was not just a weapon. It was a key to unlocking a deeper connection to the universe itself. The humans had stumbled upon a wellspring of energy that could rewrite reality at will, and the Jarvans were powerless to stop it. The humans, no longer cowering beneath the Jarvans' oppressive rule, now stood as giants, their minds open to the cosmos, their bodies glowing with energy drawn from the very heart of existence itself. With each word, the power of the ancient language spread further, its influence radiating outward, distorting the world and the Jarvans' carefully constructed order. The once imposing Jarvan ships began to fracture, their hulls cracking, as if the very atoms that held them together were being torn apart by the force of the humans' words. The air around them rippled, warping and twisting in impossible ways. The Jarvans' most powerful ships were being ripped apart by the unseen force. They had no defense against it. The humans had become a living conduit to the energy that had once been lost to time. The Jarvans had no choice but to retreat deeper into space, their once proud fleet now a shattered remnant of its former glory. But the humans did not stop there. They spoke the next word with a new intensity, the very atmosphere itself convulsing with power. The sky turned dark, the clouds swirling and crackling with raw energy, as if the earth itself was reaching out in response to the words of its ancient children. The Jarvans had thought they were the masters of the galaxy, but they had no idea what they were truly up against. Humanity was no longer weak. They had unlocked a power beyond comprehension, and the universe would never be the same again. The Jarvans fled, their once unshakable confidence shattered as they retreated into the deep void of space, their ships scattered in every direction, no longer the coordinated force they had once been. but a fragmented, disoriented mess trying to escape the crushing power of the ancient words. The humans had unleashed the battle above Earth, had taken a turn the like of which the Jarvans had never imagined, and as the humans continued to speak the language, their voices carrying through the very fabric of space, the Jarvans began to realize that there was no escape. This was not just a battle for Earth, it was a battle for their place in the universe. The humans had become something more than a threat. They had become a force of nature itself. The Jarvans tried to rally their forces, calling for reinforcements from their distant colonies, but they were too late. The humans were already altering the very fabric of reality. Their words no longer just reshaped Earth, they reached out into the cosmos, echoing across vast distances, warping space-time itself. The Jarvan's fleet, which had once been invincible, was now scattered and lost. Unable to fight against the energy, the humans controlled the human resistance. No longer mere survivors, now had the power to reshape entire star systems. With nothing more than the words they spoke, they were not just altering their own reality, they were bending the rules of existence itself. They could feel the energy flowing through them, coursing like a river that had broken free from its banks. With every word, they unlocked more of the ancient language, revealing new layers of power that had been hidden for eons beneath the surface of their civilization. The Jarvans' attempts to counterattack were futile. Their ships were being torn apart by the very space they traveled through, the fabric of reality itself seeming to unravel at their presence. The humans, no longer fighting for their lives, now fought for something greater, freedom and a destiny beyond the stars. Their voices united as one, the power of their combined will causing the very air around them to hum with energy. The sky above Earth darkened, swirling with clouds that crackled with electricity. The atmosphere itself became charged with the energy the humans were channeling, a living manifestation of their newfound power. The Jarvans, powerless to fight back, could only watch as their once proud fleet was dismantled, their ships falling apart piece by piece, their control slipping away into nothingness. The humans had not only taken back their planet, they had become the new masters of the universe. The power they controlled was not just a weapon, but a key to the very essence of existence itself. The Jarvans were left helpless in the wake of this revelation. The ancient language, a gift from their ancestors, had unlocked a power they could never have understood, a power that was now in the hands of the humans. And the Jarvans, for the first time, realized the truth. They had underestimated humanity. Not only had they survived, they had transcended, and as the last of the Jarvan ships flickered and vanished into the blackness of space, the humans knew their work was far from over. They had become more than they had ever imagined, and the universe was waiting for them to shape it according to their will. The battle was over, but the war had only just begun. The Jarvans, scattered and broken, were nothing more than a memory in the wake of humanity's rise. The humans stood together, not as conquerors, but as something more, a new force in the universe, one that could not be ignored. Their mastery of the ancient language had unlocked not just the secrets of their past, but the keys to their future. As the last remnants of the Jarvan fleet disappeared into the stars, the humans looked up, not in victory, but in purpose. The universe, once a vast and unfathomable expanse, was now theirs to shape. The energy that flowed through them was the energy of creation, of transformation, and they could feel the potential of it all. The ancient words were no longer just a tool for defense or survival. They were a bridge to new possibilities, new realities. With each word they spoke, they could feel the fabric of space and time bend around them, the boundaries of the known universe expanding at their command. But the humans knew that their journey was far from over. They had only begun to unlock the true depth of their power, and with it came a responsibility that none of them had expected. The Jarvans were not the only force in the universe. There were others, ancient, powerful civilizations that had watched from the shadows as humanity's rise unfolded. The humans had disturbed a delicate balance, and though the Jarvans were gone, the echoes of their defeat would ripple across the galaxy, drawing the attention of forces far beyond what humanity could comprehend. The ancient language was a key, but not all who sought it had noble intentions. There were those who would seek to control it, to use it for their own ends, and the humans knew they would have to guard it carefully. As they stood on the precipice of this new era, they realized that their greatest challenge was not the Jarvans, nor any other external threat. It was the power within themselves. The language they had unlocked was a gift, but also a curse. It had the potential to reshape the universe, but in the wrong hands, it could bring about untold destruction. The humans understood now that they were not the only ones capable of wielding it. They had been granted an immense gift, but the question remained, how would they use it? Would they shake the universe with compassion and wisdom, or would they be consumed by the very power that had made them gods? The answer to that question would determine the fate of all existence. As the sun rose over Earth, the skies clear and peaceful for the first time in what seemed like an eternity, the humans felt a quiet resolve settle over them. They had won, but their true work had only just begun. The Jarvans were gone, but the universe was vast, and within it lay countless challenges, mysteries, and dangers. They had the power to change everything, but with it came the need for restraint, for guidance, and for unity. Humanity had transcended its past, and now, standing at the dawn of a new age, they could no longer afford to be the species that had once cowered under the weight of the universe. They were no longer just survivors. They were the architects of their own destiny. And as they uttered the first words of the ancient language once more, it was clear to them all that this was only the beginning.